The surface looks peaceful. A dry horizon, a quiet village, a few stones half buried in dust. But below that ordinary ground is a question that refuses to stay buried. Why would thousands of people build a city where the sun could not reach them? Not a cave, not a temporary hiding place, a real underground world with rooms, corridors, stables, wells, storage chambers, kitchens, schools, and places of worship. A place designed so people could vanish from the surface and keep living. That is the first hook of this mystery. The deeper the tunnels go, the less they feel like an accident. They feel like a plan. The entrance would not have looked dramatic. That was the point. The most powerful feature of the city was not stone, depth, or size. It was secrecy. A door could hide behind a wall. A passage could begin inside a normal room. A village could appear empty while an entire community waited below, listening for danger to pass overhead. The design reveals the fear. Ventilation shafts pulled air through the levels, but they had to remain hidden from enemies outside. Wells brought water without forcing people to expose themselves. Food storage kept grain and supplies away from heat. Animal stalls suggest that people were not only protecting themselves, but also protecting the ability to restart life when the danger ended. Then there were the stone doors. These were not ordinary doors. They were enormous round slabs, heavy enough to seal a passage, shaped so they could be rolled into place from inside. From outside, an attacker could push and fail. From inside, defenders could block a tunnel, watch through a small opening, and decide when to move again. It was ancient security architecture, built without electricity, passwords, or steel. But the city did not depend on one barrier. It used confusion. Corridors narrowed, passages bent. Rooms connected in ways that made sense to insiders but punished strangers. An invading group would lose formation almost immediately. Torches would flicker. Smoke would hang in tight spaces. Every sound would echo. The deeper an attacker entered, the less control they had. That makes the underground city more than a shelter. It was a survival machine. And survival machines are built for specific fears. Raiders, armies, religious violence, political collapse, local attacks. Maybe not one event, but many generations of danger layered together. A tunnel dug for one crisis becomes a memory for the next. A family secret becomes civic infrastructure. The emotional part is harder to measure. Imagine bringing a child into that darkness and telling them to stay quiet. Imagine cooking underground while footsteps pass above. Imagine knowing that fresh air still exists, but that the open sky has become dangerous. The same earth that once grew food has become a ceiling. Safety has turned the world upside down. Archaeology can show rooms and shafts, but it cannot fully recover the silence. It cannot tell us what it felt like when the stone door rolled shut. It cannot record the first night underground when people waited to learn whether they had escaped or trapped themselves. Every practical feature of the city carries a human cost. The builders also needed discipline. Digging rooms through stone required tools, labor, leadership, and time. Someone had to decide where the air shafts went. Someone had to store food. Someone had to maintain order when fear spread faster than news. That means the city was not built by panic alone. Panic may have started the story, but planning kept people alive. That is what makes it feel strangely modern. Today we build bunkers, emergency tunnels, storm shelters, data centers, and underground transit systems. We use different materials, but the anxiety is familiar. What happens if the surface becomes unsafe? What do we protect first? Food, water, children, records, faith, power? The underground city is an ancient answer to questions we still ask. The most haunting victory may have left no record at all. If enemies passed over the hidden vents and never found the entrance, there was no battle to celebrate, no heroic inscription, no king claiming glory, just people sitting in darkness, surviving by not being seen. History usually remembers the loud. This place remembers the quiet. Eventually, someone had to roll the door open. Someone had to climb back toward daylight and test the world again. That first breath of air must have felt like freedom and fear at once. The underground city was never meant to replace life. It was meant to preserve life until the surface became trustworthy again. And that is why the mystery still matters. It reminds us that civilization is not only what people build to be admired. Sometimes it is what they build to be hidden. Sometimes progress is not a tower rising into the sky, but a tunnel dropping into darkness, carrying a community through a century that tried to erase it. So the real question is not only why they went underground, it is how many other answers are still beneath ordinary places, sealed behind walls, under fields, beneath streets, waiting for someone to notice that the ground sounds hollow. The deepest clue is not the size of the tunnels, but the patience behind them. A community does not create this kind of refuge in one frightened afternoon. It happens through repeated warnings. One attack teaches the value of a hidden entrance. One shortage teaches the value of better storage. One close call teaches the value of a second door. Over time, fear becomes design. That makes the city a record of threats without naming them. No inscription has to say the danger was close. The architecture says it. Narrow passages say it. Hidden vents say it. Water systems say it. The fact that ordinary life was moved underground says it louder than any monument could. And there is another possibility. The city may have changed the people who used it. A child raised with secret passages learns that safety depends on memory. A farmer storing grain below ground learns that food is not only harvest, but strategy. A community that survives by hiding may develop a different idea of courage, not charging into battle, but staying quiet long enough for everyone to live. That is the modern connection. Our world still builds invisible systems for emergencies. Backup servers, shelters, evacuation routes, water reserves, power grids, encrypted records. We call them resilience. Ancient people carved their resilience into stone. The technology looks different, but the fear is familiar. The surface can fail. The question is whether a society has prepared a second layer of life beneath it. This is why the underground city feels less like a ruin and more like a question carved into rock. It asks what a community is willing to give up to remain together. Sunlight, comfort, open space, even normal time could be traded for one thing: continuity. The people who lived below were not disappearing from history. They were trying to outlast the part of history that wanted them gone. And if their plan worked, the greatest proof is silence. No dramatic battlefield, no final stand. Just families emerging later, carrying tools, seeds, stories, and the knowledge that the earth itself had kept them alive.